he asked her as a joke. A billionaire CEO. A cleaning lady. A boardroom full of Ivy League analysts. Wayne Tyler walked up to Florence Adam, the woman who had cleaned his 63rd floor for 11 years, pulled out his phone, and asked her what stock she'd invest in. He was going to humiliate her in front of the entire company. He had the punchline ready. He had the room ready. What he was not ready for was her answer. Because Florence Adam didn't guess, she didn't shrug, she took off her glasses, looked him dead in the eye, and broke down 3 investment theses so sharp, so precise that this CEO, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, couldn't sleep that night. 14 months later, her picks made his firm more money than any of his Harvard-educated analysts had in 3 years. This is the story of what happens when the most powerful man in the room finally stops talking and starts listening to the person everyone else ignored. Welcome to Kindness Arena. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unseen connections that change lives, please help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers. Help me show her that stories like this matter and deserve to be heard by hitting the subscribe button, liking the video, comment your thoughts, where you are watching from, and share it with someone who needs it to stay motivated. Your support keeps these powerful true stories alive. The 63rd floor of Tyler Meridian Capital smelled like ambition, fresh espresso, designer cologne, and the faint metallic scent of money perpetually in motion. Wayne Tyler sat at the head of a boardroom table that cost more than most people's cars, scrolling through quarterly reports with the casual disinterest of a man who had already won at everything he'd ever tried. Wayne was 47, self-made, and dangerously aware of both facts. He had started Tyler Meridian from a studio apartment with a laptop and a borrowed phone, and 20 years later, he commanded a firm managing over $3.4 billion in assets. His face graced the cover of Fortune twice. He wore his success the way some men wear cologne, everywhere, all at once, slightly too much. It was a Tuesday in late October when the idea came to him, the way bad ideas often are dressed up beautifully as something clever. He had been in a foul mood since the morning stand-up, where Mars Hobbs, his head of investments, had presented the firm's 3rd consecutive quarter of underwhelming returns. The S&P was up. Their portfolio was flat, clients were restless. Wayne needed something, a story, a moment, a way to inject energy back into the room for the upcoming all-hands meeting scheduled for Thursday. He was pacing the corridor near the service elevator when he noticed her. Florence Adam. She came every Tuesday and Thursday evening, pushing her cart with the quiet precision of someone who had learned long ago that the best way to move through powerful spaces was to become invisible in them. She was 31 years old, with hair pulled back in a neat bun, reading glasses tucked into her uniform breast pocket, and hands that had known decades of honest work. She had cleaned the 63rd floor of Tyler Meridian for 11 years. Wayne watched her spray and wipe the glass partition near the investment analyst bullpen. One of the young analysts, barely 26, Yale MBA, was still at his desk, muttering about sector rotations. What does she think about when she's here? Wayne wondered. Does she even know what any of this is? And then the idea arrived, wrapped in cruelty and disguised as humor. He would ask Florence for stock advice. He would write down whatever she said, whatever confused, random, uneducated guess she offered, and he would present it at Thursday's all-hands meeting. The punchline would be devastatingly clear. Even the cleaning lady had a take on the market, and her take would be laughably wrong. The room would roar. The analysts would feel the sting of being implicitly compared to someone who knew nothing. It would jolt them awake. Shame, Wayne had long believed, was the fastest teacher. He walked over, hands in pockets, his practiced smile already loading. Florence, right? She looked up. Not startled, she had seen enough powerful men approach her over the years to know how to read them. Yes, Mr. Tyler. Quick question. He leaned against the glass. If you had, say, $10,000 to invest, hypothetically what stock would you put it in? Right now, today. Florence studied him for a moment. It was a long moment. The kind that made younger men fidget. May I ask why you want to know, Mr. Tyler? He waved his hand dismissively. Humor me. Just curious what regular people are thinking these days. Florence set her spray bottle down on the cart. She removed her glasses from her pocket and put them on, not to read anything, but the way some people do when they are about to say something they want heard clearly. Genuinely want my answer, or is this for a laugh? She said. Wayne blinked. In 20 years of running a firm, no one on the support staff had ever spoken to him like that. Not with hostility, just with the blunt, unadorned directness of someone who had absolutely nothing to lose. Genuinely, he said, and was surprised to find he half meant it. Florence nodded slowly. 3 companies. I wouldn't put everything in one. Wayne pulled out his phone and opened his notes app, more out of reflex than respect. Go ahead. First, she said, the company that makes the equipment for the chip plants. Not the chips themselves, the machines that make the chips. ASML. Everyone's fighting over AI, over semiconductors, but nobody builds a fab without their lithography machines. They have no real competition. None. That's a toll road, Mr. Tyler. You want to own toll roads. Wayne's thumb hovered over his phone screen. Second, Florence continued, speaking in the unhurried tone of someone reciting something she had thought about many times before, I'd look at waste management, not glamorous, but people throw things away in recessions and booms both. Their landfill capacity is a locked asset, land they own that can never be replicated. Inflation goes up, their prices go up. It's boring and it's beautiful. There was silence. And third? Wayne asked. His voice had shifted slightly, even though he could hear it. Constellation Software, a Canadian company. They buy small, boring vertical software businesses, things like software for funeral homes, for auto dealerships, for municipal governments, businesses that nobody else wants because they're too small to matter to the big firms. But the customers never leave because switching costs are too high. They've compounded their book value over 20% annually for nearly 2 decades. She paused. I've been watching them since 2014. Wayne looked up from his phone. You've been watching them since 2014. I have a brokerage account, Mr. Tyler, Florence said plainly. I've had one since 1997. My late husband thought the stock market was gambling. I thought gambling was when you didn't do your research. A small, dry smile crossed her face. We had many interesting conversations. Wayne stared at her. His clever plan was quietly disassembling itself somewhere in the back of his skull. How he started. Where did you learn? Library, she said simply. Then the internet. Peter Lynch. Warren Buffett's shareholder letters. I read every one going back to 1977. I read 10Ks the way some people read novels. I have time on the bus. She picked up her spray bottle again. Will that be all, Mr. Tyler? He didn't sleep well on Wednesday night. He pulled up ASML's 10-year chart at midnight. He looked at Waste Management's margins. He dug into Constellation Software's acquisition history until 2 a.m., and somewhere around the section on their decentralized management model, he realized that Florence Adam understood capital allocation better than 3 of his 6 senior analysts. He came into Thursday's all-hands meeting with a different story. He told it straight. No embellishment, no setup, no punchline. He stood in front of 64 employees, analysts, associates, PMs, administrators, and support staff, and he said, "This week I received the most clarifying investment thesis I've heard in years. It came from Florence Adam, who has cleaned this floor for 11 years and whom, frankly, I never once thought to talk about what matters." Florence was in the back of the room. Wayne had personally walked down the hall that morning and asked her if she would attend. She had looked at him with those same steady eyes and said, "Will it run long? I have the South Corridor after this." He laughed, actually laughed. He presented her 3 picks to the investment committee. The analysts pushed back. ASML was richly valued, they said. The constellation was obscure. Wayne listened patiently and said, "Model it out. All 3. I want full memos by Monday." The memos came back more favorable than anyone expected. Tyler Meridian initiated positions in all 3 over the following 6 weeks, building quietly and deliberately. They allocated $47 million across the 3 names as part of a restructured quality compounders sleeve. 14 months later, the sleeve was up 34% against a benchmark that had returned 9%. ASML surged on the back of export restriction headlines that paradoxically underscored its irreplaceability. Waste Management beat earnings 4 quarters straight. Constellation Software did what it had always done, acquired, compounded, and quietly made its shareholders wealthy. The firm's best annual performance in 7 years was, in no small part, built on a conversation by a service elevator with a woman pushing a cleaning cart. Wayne Tyler made changes after that, some visible, some not. He started a firm-wide initiative he called floor-to-floor quarterly sessions where every employee, regardless of role, could submit investment observations or questions to the research team, which were required to be reviewed and formally responded to. He funded Florence's daughter's final year of business school, quietly and without announcement, through the firm's educational grant program. But the most lasting change was smaller than any of that. Every Tuesday and Thursday, when Florence Adam came to clean the 63rd floor, Wayne Tyler's office door was open. And sometimes, if the hour wasn't too late, he poured 2 cups of coffee, one for him, one left on the edge of his desk, and they would talk. Not about the market always. Sometimes about her husband. Sometimes about his early years in the studio apartment. Sometimes about what the word value really means, and why most people confuse it with price. Florence never did move to another floor. She said 63 suited her fine. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness is never wasted and that even a broken path can lead to beautiful places and change of lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Arena because your support keeps stories like this alive and spreading. Tell us in the comment what you would have done differently if you were the millionaire CEO. Would you have taken her advice? Or has a stranger's kindness ever changed your life in ways you didn't expect? Would love to hear your story.